create your own system that makes sense for you. And I think that's where Elevate really came from for me, was all of these systems on top of each other: TRX, durability, kettlebells, steel mace, battle ropes, all conditioning training, strength training, mobility, and how they all mix and how they all, and then the rope flow and all these systems is really about where do they connect for me, and how can I use the skills that I've learned from one thing and apply them to everything. And that reminds me of one of Georgie's favorite quotes: is how we do one thing is how we do all things.
What's up, y'all? D Foss here with the LT360 podcast. We are back with another amazing guest, my friend, colleague, a fellow fitness professional, A.J Londono, down here in South Florida. He is a fitness professional, as I mentioned, and the founder or co-founder of Elevate. So I'm super stoked to have him on. You guys may have seen him. We've collaborated on videos and events before. Comes to the movement gatherings and all sorts of fun stuff down here. He is a rope flow master. I'm excited to have him on here and chop it up with him. So welcome.
You're the man, dude. I want to hire you to just intro me wherever I go. That sounded really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Quick and easy. I mean, it's funny how we've kind of crossed paths and intertwined on a bunch of different levels. It's been awesome getting to know you, dude, and just you and Georgie, the whole community and following that you guys have, the brand that you're creating both personally and interpersonally, kind of as a duo. There's so much potential there, and there's already so much growth that's happened since I've met you. So it's super cool to see, and it's been a bright light. Kind of you guys are steps ahead of me, so it's cool to be able to just watch and learn and take little bits and pieces of. So I really do appreciate our friendship and our ability to help each other out.
Yeah, man. I got to say the same thing for you and your team at Gravity and Oxygen. It's been a really interesting journey for me, and coming back to Florida after getting educated in Austin and seeing the movement community that they have there. I like to tell everybody that Austin, Texas is like the Hollywood for actors, but for movement and functional fitness. So after going there for education and seeing what's possible with a community of like-minded souls, it really became one of my main missions to try to recreate that in Florida, because we have so many healthy people, incredible facilities. I just saw the opportunity. Yeah, 100%. So meeting you guys at Gravity and Oxygen and seeing that there was already these communities around, but then really just trying to pile them all together has been really, really cool. So you're a huge part of that, man. And I would not discount yourself at all and say that we're at all any further from you. I think you're right alongside us and helping us make this dream possible. You're a huge piece of it. So thank you for that, though.
No, of course, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I want you to give your quick little personal background, because honestly, we've connected on so many levels and we've talked, but it was funny. I was driving home and I'm like, does AJ stand for something? Is that just what his actual name is? What is his actual name? Hold on. Why do I not know that yet?
All right. So we'll start with there. Yeah, we'll start with there. So my full name is actually Aldemar, which interestingly in Spanish breaks down to A-L, which means to the, D-E, which means from the, and Mar is sea. So it's like to the from the sea is what my name actually is. And then the J is Junior, because that's my father's name as well. So AJ is a lot easier, rolls off the tongue a little smoother. So, but yeah. So, and then for the rest of the origin, I'm originally from New York. I moved here in 2006 for school. Graduated high school, went to FAU, thought I was going to be a doctor. The plan was medical school because there's a lot of health practitioners in my family. Mm-hmm. And while I was in school around 2009, I would say it's my second or third year of college, I met a fighter in one of my biology classes who worked at the Armory in Jupiter, which was an incredible mixed martial arts facility owned by this guy named Joe Mullings, who would travel around the world, finding fighters from all over the place and flying them to Florida, and really gave a home for a lot of people who wouldn't have had a home if it wasn't for him. So that was really inspiring. And I started going to that gym, and I became obsessed with it. I was there all the time, either to take classes or to just watch the fighters train, to just try to be part of that community. That was the first real introduction to a movement community I ever really came across. And then being there all the time, I had a couple fighters, couple UFC fighters. Edson Barbosa, was a top 5 ranked UFC fighter. One day he came to me and was like, talking to me about medical school and my future and why I wanted to do that and how I was there all the time. And he's like, how much money do you think you need to make? Because at the end of the day, the medical thing, when we talked about why, it was really about financial security. And when he said to me, what do you think is a good amount of money? And at the time I thought, 100 grand is like a nice round number. I was like, I don't know, 100 grand. And he looked around, he's like, there's like 6 trainers in this facility that make over 100 grand. So if this is a path that you see for yourself, the opportunity is there. So from then on, it was really hard for me to pay attention in classes with the path of medical school. And I started looking at my possibility of getting into a career of preventative medicine and health and movement. And I quickly just adopted that lifestyle and started teaching strength and conditioning classes there. They helped me get certified. And then from there, I went to a facility in Boca called Evolution Fitness, which was a boot camp class that really helped me with my leadership skills. I started teaching in front of 30, 40, 50 people on special events. We had over 200 people classes, learned a lot from some mentors out there. And they gave me the opportunity to continue my education, which is where I came across Onnit in Austin, Texas, which is a company owned by Aubrey Marcus and Joe Rogan. And when I was exposed to how much information and unconventional training was the best way they could put it, because I felt like I had never been exploited to some of this stuff, this ground-based movement or breaking down the body joint by joint and looking at it like, where is the alignment and the misalignments, and looking at a human body like a puzzle piece. And it really blew my mind. And the first thoughts that I had after going through the program was like, how have I not injured myself or any of my clients up until this point? Because this stuff felt so revolutionary to me. And from then on, I just never looked back. That was around 2014. I took the first Onnit certification. So that's 8 years ago now, or 7 years ago now, which is nuts. And I never looked back since then, dude. I feel like that moment in my life was a really transformative time. And I've tried to use that energy to continually transform myself on a day by day, week by week, month by month, and year by year basis. So yeah, man, that's me and how I got here.
All in a quick little story, dude. That you could just see I was smiling that whole time just hearing that. Like, I've never heard any of that. From the moment you started talking about to and from the sea, which is like the ultimate flow state, for one. For two, to talk about how you moved here in a weird part of your childhood. It sounded like in high school, right?
Yeah, actually halfway through senior year. So
yeah, so that's wild in and of itself, because that's such a tender part of our like development, right? So your ability to, it's almost like a make or break moment. Like, okay, do I just become this secluded kind of individual? Do I find a niche and like something that inspires me and a passion? Or, do I have an easy transition by making friends because I'm in a sport of some sort or doing something in a community? So that's awesome and makes a lot of sense how you just kind of overcame that like social hiccup in your life early on in high school, because now you can talk to freaking anybody,
for sure.
start that conversation and spark it, and it goes a long way. And then your development of wanting to go into the medical field based on kind of like family pressures in a sense, right? which was very much the route I wanted to go. I was trying to go to nursing school. I had applied to UCF, I had applied to U Tampa, Coastal Carolina, all of these like big schools that I was coming from Rhode Island, a small state, didn't really have any kind of, push in anything. No one in my family was ever in anything medical or scientific. And I was just like, all right, like I want to get into the medical field. I feel like I like the idea of working with people, being around maybe physical therapy type atmosphere with athletes. I had been injured so much as an athlete, so I wanted to be in that rehab sense. I had been through it. I had seen my sister go through it. Haley, she had ruptured her ACLs. So it was like I saw that process happen. And then I was just like, I got into it and I realized, okay, like I don't want to do the traditional medical route.
Yeah.
Um, so just another thing that we obviously can connect on and talk more about. And now we're both in that preventative measure. Let's move. Let's actually utilize the body physically to get rid of the dis-ease that we hold on to. Um, Man, so many different things. And then
Yeah, and I think what you just tapped on is really important, because one of my favorite analogies that was told to me earlier when I was in college still was, I don't even remember where I heard it from, honestly, but the analogy of how a doctor would look at someone having foot pain as opposed to someone who has a more functional approach. So, someone with foot pain, they immediately would put you on painkillers, but then from a more functional approach, it's a longer story. I'm butchering it a little bit, but the whole point of the story was the functional route was taking off the shoe and then realizing there's a rock in the shoe and finding the source of the problem, as opposed to putting a band-aid on something that we don't realize that is happening chronically, that we could actually just take a second, look at the puzzle pieces, look at this huge thing, and try to find the source and truly improve, instead of just putting a band-aid on something that's nagging and bothering and then trying to forget about it.
yeah, that's a great point. I definitely want to hear that story so I can try to get it under my
Yeah, I
belt.
got to find the actual one. Yeah, yeah.
No, because that makes a lot of sense. Like
Yeah.
we tend to throw band-aids at problems without looking for the source of the issue. Um, and for me in my college endeavor, starting, second, third, fourth year, I started to now work in the athletic training realm. So I was influenced by a lot of awesome, like really cool mentors, people that I was going to work under at other universities, and I was going to do my hours just like a nurse, nursing student has to do their hours at a hospital. I had to do the very much the same thing in the athletic training room at other universities, other schools, and other work with other teams. So I got exposed to the idea of how your body is completely adjusted in the moment to everything that your respiratory system is telling it, because that system ultimately is dictating the rest of the systems. Um, from a survival standpoint, we survive on three things. We need oxygen and carbon dioxide to be at the right um, the right ratio. We need the right amount of water, or enough water, and we need food. And so if there's not anything acutely taking our senses away from us, we don't have a knife in our foot or a saber-toothed tiger in our direct range of space, then all of it goes into, well, what's my respiratory rate doing? How is my oxygen and carbon dioxide level? The rest of the systems are going to, from a survival standpoint, pay attention to that. So if you hack that system and you start to look at how someone's walking around, how they're breathing, what their rib cage looks like, that's going to tell you where their brain state is, what they're consistently and chronically paying attention to, not letting go of emotionally, how they walk through life. Literally, like what their gait is can tell you so much about what that person is dealing with emotionally, physically. And it's that same idea of like, it's a puzzle piece. So what are we going to look at? What are we going to take away? And now what can we alter or change to make a positive impact and not have to put a Band-Aid on it? Or, you know, cortisone shots is the big thing down here, right? It's like, let's
Yeah.
just get a cortisone shot. We're going to put fluid in it. It's going to basically take away the nerve's ability to send an impulse to the brain and give them the warning sign that something is going on wrong there functionally. Like you have to
Yeah.
change what's going on functionally in order to change that sending of that pain signal to the brain. So I mean, you obviously have that puzzle approach, that piece. What was the actual certification that you took it on it? What was like the
So the first one I took was called Foundations in 2014. It was actually the original. I was part of the first graduating class there. I was a huge fan of the Joe Rogan podcast. I watched it from the very first episode live on
with
New Year's
Brian McMahon?
2009. Yeah, like the original. And I was I originally was a fan of him from the UFC. Like I said, MMA was a big part of how I even got into health and wellness to begin with.
Mhm.
So I was a huge fan of Joe just because of the UFC. He started this podcast. I started listening to it. He got sponsored by the Fleshlight, which was a company in Texas. And that sponsorship for his podcast connected him with Aubrey, who is the son of the founder of Fleshlight. This is like a long, but that is how they created On It and decided that they wanted to go in the route. It started off with just supplements, but then they started creating equipment and training. And this foundations course was a way to just tie all of the education into one piece. How to get someone in for a weekend, show them about Alpha Brain and the supplements that they offer, show them some of the equipment that they make, how to use that equipment safely and with proficiency, and then to just share that out there. So hearing about that, I thought it was amazing. I heard about that about a year before they were planning on doing the training. And as soon as I heard that the training was public, I like saved up. And actually the gym Evolution Fitness helped me and gave me some money they had our continued education in mind. So any trainer who wanted to continue education, we had some money as allotment to use. So I used some of that money for the flight. I paid for the certification on my own. And Foundations was just this really comprehensive look at unconventional training, functional training, where it is and where it's going. And what I found from like maybe the second or third hour of the first day, and I think what even On It found, the trainers there, was that a lot of the population, even in the room there, had to focus on how to properly squat, how to properly hinge, how to properly move the body joint by joint. And it limited how much we could actually grasp of each equipment, the supplements, and all this other stuff. Because pretty soon they realized, wow, like a lot of people in this room is limited, and we can increase the proficiency of how they move.
Mm.
I was one of those people. I have really embarrassing footage of my first certification. I was just telling Georgie about it the other day. My partner, I was lucky enough to be partnered up with UFC fighter legend. He's in the Hall of Fame, Danny Castillo from Sacramento, California. And seeing his face while while I'm trying to learn like sandbag zercher squats and deadlifts and how to swing, his face looking at the way I was doing some of these movement patterns, it was like really telling. And it was like, okay, obviously like I have some work to do.
Mm.
And I'm already a fitness professional at this time. I've already been teaching people for close to 5 years. Not anything in the qualitative side of movement, but it was more of your typical what you think of when you hear the word boot camp, like yelling at people to get their reps in as fast as possible, get a sweat in, get in and get out. So by seeing that, Foundations was the first level. Really what it taught me was where I'm at in my own personal journey and how to progress that. The
Mm.
second one that I took with On It was really the one that changed my life. And I think it's the most impactful training I ever did, was called Durability. And that was designed by someone named Sarah Jameson, who's based out of Canada. She's an amazing clinical therapist. She's just a wealth of knowledge. And she created this program called Durability, which was basically ground-based movement and yoga, but broken down into a clinical approach. So we would take a position and almost take a snapshot photo of it and then say, okay, look at the wrist, look at the elbow, look at the shoulder. This is where it is and this is where it should be. And spiral lines, and teaching us about fascial tissue and the importance of mobility, and how mobility and strength are actually like heads and tails of the same coin. And none of this stuff had ever been taught to me beforehand. You know, everybody was like, get strong. You know, how do you get strong? But I never took into account the importance of mobility and how those things are so interconnected. So durability was definitely the one that changed the way I look at the human body, and the way I look at performance and efficiency and energy. You know, energy was the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do they still offer that durability course?
Um, right now with everything going on, I'm pretty sure that the focus is going digital. They just put out Foundations, an online version, and actually Georgie and I were part of the shooting of that. We shot that in 2019 and they just released it. I'm sure that durability is a big part of the Foundations program, and I'm
Okay.
sure moving forward that they will
Do that. Sure.
do that moving forward. Yeah, but right now, like I said, with everything going on in the world, they really focused on digital content.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
am I'm going to Austin in March. I like really, really, really want to go to On It. So I'm gonna make that happen. Um, for whatever reason, just to go in and work out and be
Yeah,
around.
man.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. In terms of since then, your ability to take that knowledge and bring it back here. When did you get the durability?
2015. That was
Okay.
the second. Yeah, that was the second course. So the first course I took there was in October of 2014. It blew my mind, and then I found out that durability was in like February of 2015, and I immediately went back. And then for the next, from 2014 to 2018, I would say I was on it at least 3 or 4 times a year for 3 years. I took so I missed to share this part, but I've actually taken every course on it at least once. The kettlebell course I took actually 4 times. When they still had they had an original plan for how they were building out the education side. And for the trainers that were returning, we were on a path to become coaches ourselves on the education side, which was the plan. But then, like I said, with the development and growth of that company and with what's going on with the world, they've pivoted a little bit. But the original plan was to become an educator for them. So I did kettlebells multiple times. Durability, I took 4 times, I believe. Yeah, 4 times, 3 times in Austin and 1 time in Miami. So yeah, their stuff really changed I'll add on, it was worth it every single time, because I really felt like I took something completely different out of each and every experience. So,
And
yeah, man.
undoubtedly too, when you go to such a premier place, like the relationships and network that you can create and walk away with is just, it's the value in that alone is worth it. Never
100%.
never mind the practical skills that you can learn.
For sure.
So now since then, you've obviously been back 100 times to On It and you've done their stuff. Outside of that, have you found other companies of value, of certifications that you recommend individuals, seeking out?
Yeah, 100%. I would say that On It was really the gateway into the education. I didn't really I didn't know, and I wasn't told that this world of continued education was there. I feel like at the time in 2014, 2015, there was continued education for your, NASM that you could take and online, and they had all these things, but these On It was really the gateway where I was like, oh wow, there's people that are at the tip of the spear teaching these things that are like the future of our industry. So immediately after doing Foundations and Durability, I met a couple of people from other courses like Animal Flow. Mike Fitch is the creator of that, and he's from Miami. Animal Flow was something I took soon after I took Durability, and that was another level up in my own personal practice, because I realized that ground-based movement was this super important piece of a puzzle when you're rebuilding the human body. And when you look at the human body from a developmental stage, when we're children, we start crawling on all fours and on the ground. And then we, through play, learning through play, which has become a big mantra of mine, we figure out how to walk, and then we're off to the races. So ground-based movement is another one I would highly recommend to people, whether it be yoga, whether it be animal flow, whether it be Budokan. There's multiple systems out there to teach you how to just get on all four limbs. And the most special part about it for me is that your body learns the lessons as long as you're willing to get down on the ground.
Yeah.
How people decide to teach it and write the textbook is really in the eye of the beholder. And that's something that I realized, early on in my addiction to education, starting in 2014. I started going to all these certifications. TRX was another big one that blew my mind. And the biggest takeaway from there was how, if you look at the performance side of the human body while it's performing, if you think about the body like it's in a forearm plank because you're creating this tension, then you can find slack in the system and where to improve. So it's like I took all these courses, but the underlying thing was, what can I take away that's going to benefit me at my point in my practice? And then how can I use that to help the people around me that are also trying to improve themselves? So I would say any education that resonates with you, it doesn't matter if it's based on a tool, if it's based on your body, ground-based movement, there's something you can take away from it and incorporate it in your own lifestyle and to the people around you who are also on the same path.
That's ultimately life, right?
Yeah, 100%.
If something resonates with you, it's like, don't be afraid to fail at it, or don't be afraid to not get any value out of it. Just do it, learn the damn lesson that's connected to it, and then move on to the next one. And if that means doing it again, you do it again. If it doesn't, you walk in the other direction.
Yeah. And as much as I love the brand On It, one of their main pillars was the final pillar in the education portion of it was give to empower. So something that they taught me more than anything was, it's not really the thing you're learning or the logo on the tool or the system. It was really it's not about the dogma of this is the end all be all, this is the one thing that works for everyone. It's what works for you. How can we share that? How can you take something that makes sense to you and incorporate it into your lifestyle and then become better because of that? So with my own movement practice, with my own education, with the company Elevate, we've created our own way of teaching those same lessons, but in the way that makes sense to us and how it's structured for us. And with your brand, I'm sure, and your training, you do a lot of the same things. You take the lessons you've learned, and we can only say things and be things as we are. So I think that it's just as valuable to learn these lessons from you as it would be from me or any brand out there, as long as you're willing to listen and resonate to what's coming out. If you're aligned with what's coming out, you can definitely get something out of it. And it's less about the logo or exactly what you're doing or what team it is, and it's more about just seeing what works for you. For sure.
Ultimately, I don't think there is really like a best place to learn anything. It's really, like you said, it's just a matter of taking what you're going to take out of it, and that's going to change every time. Just like you took that kettlebell certification, and every time you went back, you were on a different frequency, you resonated with something else, you take that back, you adapt it to fit what you're currently doing, where you currently are in your journey, and then it becomes a tool to be able to pick out of your toolkit or your tool belt and give to someone else based on where they are in their journey. And that's, I think, what I've admired about you and Georgie, is you come to the table with so many tools, and you may have not been that way before, right? The first 5-6 years of your endeavors in this field, like you said, you were not an expert by any means.
For sure.
and the ability for you to humbly walk through that path and say, okay, like I don't know that, I don't know this. Let me just continue to gobble up as much as that information as I can and practice it, apply it to my own. Where and when or do you have a yoga cert? Is that somewhere in there?
That's a great question. I actually don't have a yoga certification. So that's an amazing question, dude. So yoga is a huge part of my journey,
Yeah.
but yoga was something that I started because of durability and animal flow. When I did durability, my hands were on the ground, and for some, I didn't realize how hard it was to actually be on the floor. It was something that wasn't they didn't have it as a prerequisite of like, oh, you should be used to being on the ground before we do all this stuff. I didn't realize that in modern society, our hands are almost never in extension. And then you get your hands on the ground and you're being forced into this position where everything is this way, whether we're typing, whether we're driving, whether we're writing, everything is this way. We're not used to being in this extension. And I think that's one of the really beautiful things about ground-based movement is it puts us where in a place that we're almost never in today's standards. So after Animal Flow, it was a 2-day course. After the first day, I couldn't feel my forearms because my hands were in this position for so long. And I thought, wow, this really needs to change. So I started doing yoga when I came back to Florida. And I had the opportunity to go through the schooling of yoga, but at the time, I felt like in my own practice, I was able to get as much as I needed from the classes themselves because I didn't want to put myself, like we were talking about with Dogma, I didn't want to put myself in any specific niche or in any specific system. So I think once you become a yoga instructor and you're teaching yoga at a studio, you're seen as the yoga guy at the yoga studio. And with what we were covering before, it reminds me of this book. This guy named Daniele Bolelli, he's an Italian philosopher. He wrote a book called Make Your Own Religion. And the whole point of it was not being cornered into one specific dogma or system, and rather just be open-minded and see what different schools, different languages, different places, different school of thoughts, where they're coming from, put those all together and see where they overlap and see what works for you, what resonates with you, and create your own system that makes sense for you. And I think that's where Elevate really came from for me, was all of these systems on top of each other: TRX, durability, kettlebells, steel mace, battle ropes, all conditioning training, strength training, mobility, and how they all mix and how they all, and then the rope flow and all these systems is really about where do they connect for me and how can I use the skills that I've learned from one thing and apply them to everything. And that reminds me of one of Georgie's favorite quotes: is how we do one thing is how we do all things. So that's really how we try to live.
No, that's great, dude. I mean, it makes so much sense. I definitely got to get my hands on that book by what was his name again?
Daniele Bolelli. He actually has a podcast too. He's really cool. It's called the Drunk Taoist, the Drunken Taoist podcast. That's what it's called. He's amazing. Yeah. He is a philosopher and he talks a lot about the history of religion and stuff. But the whole point was, because religion is a great analogy for any type of team or system or politics. We're, as humans, we love to find community that have like-minded ideas and goals and this and that. So I think sometimes that becomes a little distracting and we think about the team over logic and, over the collective, the grand collective, and being able to see that all of these things, no matter how different they were, like it doesn't get much different steel mace to TRX. Like TRX is a suspension strap that you put on a ceiling as opposed to a piece of steel that you have in your hands. But by becoming proficient of both, I saw that there was so much
overlapping.
overlap between the two. So yeah.
Principles, right? The principles are the
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point. The reason I asked the yoga is because I have as one of my 2022 goals to become yoga certified and do my 200 hours. Um, so much like you, I've looked at things my entire career and basis from I've, like you did with yoga, I've looked at things like the TRX, I've looked at things like the steel mace and the kettlebells, and I've always just learned enough and had the underlying principles in mind that I never got. I don't have a certification in kettlebells, in maces, in ropes, in none of it. TRXs, and no, I don't have animal flow. I like name all of them. I don't have any of them. But if you give me one, I'll pretty much be able to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And yoga appeals to me because I also want to learn the Ayurvedic lifestyle,
Hmm.
and like the underlying Buddhist principles that are ingrained into what yoga is. So I'm trying to look for that like real Eastern approach of yoga, in that certification realm, a team or a brand or the logo or whatever it is. Um, I'm not really 100% worried about, but I want to make it experiential and more life driven than necessarily like, oh, I got my 200 hours and now I can teach yoga. um I mean, I use yogi principles every day in teaching my clients. um
Likewise, I
yeah.
actually have a couple of yogic mentors that I've absorbed a lot from over the years, and they have given me some of my biggest lessons in my life. And I don't want to discount yoga at all. And I have a couple of mentors in the area here, like Naya Rappaport, who is, when it comes to the history of yoga, the Ayurvedic approach, the deeper, less sexy, less Americanized version of yoga when it comes to really where it came from. I do have a couple mentors that I look up to for those specific purposes, like what you're talking about. So I resonate a lot with what you're saying, and I agree. I think that you can learn so much from that because of the fact that it's a practice that's been going on for generations and generations. And a lot of this stuff, even when we learn it and it feels revolutionary and brand new, you got to stop for a second and be like, wow, people have, even steel mace, people used, the steel mace came from a weapon that was used in medieval times. That's where the idea of the steel mace even came from. And yoga is something that's been going on for thousands of years. And that's us, our species, people just like us, but just coming across the same lessons and refining those lessons over and over for who knows how long. So for sure, I think that all you could do is learn and upgrade and evolve and become a better person from it. So I think it would be a great idea for you, man. I
Cool,
love
thank
that resolution. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the many things I have for goals this year.
Yeah.
And it's something that I would also love to turn into some sort of retreat like you guys have planned. Like I feel like the opportunity to take engulfing yourself into an experience and a place that feels like it's so resonating to what you're learning. So doing a retreat, a destination yoga certification has been like, wow, that would be so cool. It would be so amazing to be able to practice the lifestyle, the Ayurvedic principles, waking up, doing the meditating, and then also doing the learning and the hours. And obviously, you're not going to do 200 hours over a week-long vacation because there's not even enough hours in a week.
You're
But
selling me on it, dude. I'm like, damn, I want to go on this trip with you.
right.
I'm ready.
No, but your retreat last year, I would love for you to give that visual to the people who are listening right now, because I know you're doing another one, and I know there will be some people that definitely resonate with that and are like, wow, this sounds super cool. I don't want to miss out on this.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
highlight that for me right now.
So in September, a few months back, myself, Georgie, who are both of us are co-founders of Elevate, along with Naya Rappaport and our friend Angelino out in the Dominican Republic, we did this retreat that was called the Unique Jungle Retreat. We had this beautiful eco-friendly hotel in Samana, which is in the Upper Peninsula of Dominican Republic, one of the most remote places I've ever been to in my life. I wasn't warned how remote it actually was until I got there. We flew into the capital, and it was a 3.5 hour drive up mountains, and half of the roads weren't paved. There was potholes. It was pretty sketchy. There was like one specific part of the whole town that has data or receives any kind of service. So you would see townspeople all huddled up in this area trying to get, it was super remote.
Wow.
And we were lucky enough to have 15 people from all over the country come to our retreat. The retreat included not only ground-based movement, rope flow, and yoga, but it also adventure was a big part of our retreat. It was the name in the retreat. It was the name of the hotel out there. So each day we chose to do at least one activity that would take people outside of their comfort zone. Because if you ask me what adventure means, it's being outside of your comfort zone and doing something that maybe you don't do every day. So it didn't necessarily mean that it was a physical feat. There was a lot of moments where people just felt uncomfortable with the fact that there wasn't air conditioning, or the fact that electricity wasn't really common in a big part of that hotel. We had like one area that had electricity. And yeah, just we were all pulled out of our comfort zones being there. And it was a 5-day excursion right on the beach. We had an incredible time that just included adventures like ziplining and hiking to the highest waterfall, but also just being together with a group of people from all over the country in a remote place. And it came down to how we felt with each other, how we breathed, how we moved as a group. And it was really life-changing. Even for us as the coaches that were hosting the event, we all had a life-changing experience. So from September, we went to that hotel. The last day there, the owners were part of our retreat. On like, it was a 5-day, so day 3, 4, and 5, our group went from like 15 to like 22 to like 28. And but the last day we had a bonfire at the beach. I think there was probably over 30 people there, and wow, under a new moon, so there was no moon, it was the stars there. It seemed unreal. So by the 5th day, we had a bunch of people saying to us, when are you going to come back? And the week after we came back, we had a meeting with the hotel, and we're planning on doing this again May 30th, which would be Memorial Day, I believe. So it's another 5-day excursion. We're hoping to get out the whole hotel, so we're probably going to double the amount of people that we had last year. Wow. And the cool thing about it was, like I said, it was so, we gave the opportunity for ourselves and for people to take the word adventure and really form it to what that meant for them. Because some people came and didn't, someone's mom came who didn't necessarily want to hike a 3-hour hike that was really challenging to the human body, or didn't want to zip line because she's scared of heights and this and that, but she was able to do the yoga, was able to experience the meals and the morning meditation, sunrise at the beach, and was able to have their adventure in their own custom way. So that was really beautiful, and we're so excited to do that again.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, man. And not only that, we already have so many ideas of how to level this up for the next one. So rope flow, if nobody knows me here yet, for those of you that don't know me, rope flow is one of my big passions. It's this rope that you don't jump, but you flow it around you, and it teaches your body and your mind how to have this new level of awareness to your energy. And it was a second for Georgie and I. We were like, hey, the day before, should we bring ropes to this trip? And we're like, yeah, all right, I'll pack a few ropes in my bag. You pack a few ropes in your bag. And we had a workout at the jungle gym there. And we decided, hey, we have enough ropes to make it a section. Started showing some people. And then the next day, people were like, yo, can we do more of that? And then I had a staff from the hotel, a guy who had been living in this remote area for generations, never seen anything like it. And he came over to me. He's like, yo, can you show me? Like, he's like, that's so cool. It's not jump rope. Like, what is that? So that was such a huge thing for me, because it was this, not only were people challenging themselves from a physical standpoint with the rope, but it was more of the idea of what it even represents. The fact that I like to tell people, I like to go really like Yoda with it. And I go, hey guys, guess what? There is no rope. Like, this is the rope, do the moves, but there is no rope. The rope is a representation of you and your energy. So it's just about your ability to flow your own energy and how you feel. So from there, the creator of the ropes that I use, Slush Ropes out in Vegas, she heard about our event and she fell in love with it so much. So we're actually going to be making custom ropes for this next retreat, custom colors for the jungle retreat. And we're going to be donating. They don't know this yet at the hotel, so hopefully they're not hearing this, or maybe they are. Hopefully they are. But we're going to be donating all of those ropes over there as well, because it's something it's spreading like wildfire right now. So we want to continue that and help to grow the rope flow community and grow the impact that it's having on so many people.
Dude, it has really impacted me so much. I remember the first day you brought them into GNO and started teaching me in PC. And I mean, to think now, like, I got to, help a bunch of people learn when you guys had the workshop at GNO. Then I went up to the one at the training spot with Jared where Slushy came as well. And we all got to take a little group and show them and explain to them, showing it to people. I mean, other fitness professionals that had never seen it down here. It's been so cool. I always keep them. Look, I got them right here.
Yeah, that's so funny, man. Yo, look, check this out. I don't even have to get off screen. I always got one arm's reach, dude. And this one right here, Slush Ropes. Check out the logo right there. Boom. Slushy, we love you, dude. One of the highest quality ropes on the market.
For sure. She's such a dope woman.
I think the coolest thing about the rope too is that it doesn't matter if you put it into someone's hands who isn't that proficient with movement per se, or if you give it to a fit pro who's never seen it before. The first thing I notice is this childlike energy and smile that comes out once they start whipping it around. Oh yeah, I think I got it. And then like you show them a more complicated move and they're like, whoa, like just from underhand pattern, which is such a natural pattern, but then you show them the dragon roll and it's like the brain blows up and it's like, wait a second, what is this thing happening and how do I do that?
It's so funny to watch people's aha moments with the rope.
For sure.
It's very childlike. And I saw that mantra, you put up the other day and that you mentioned earlier, like learn from play. And the culture of working out doesn't have to be so boot campish, right?
For sure.
It can be working in, right? Using something that weighs relatively nothing, but through internal competence, you're creating pressures and creating movement efficiencies, and you're cardiovascularly like taxing yourself and having fun while you're doing it ultimately. And then you take those same principles, and the ones that I love showing to people, like we were at the movement gathering at Deerfield Beach, is like you take the dragon roll and then you give someone a mace and you put their hands on the same thing, and now it weighs 10 pounds instead of a pound, and you tell them to do the same movement, like literally the exact same thing, and all of a sudden boom, like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
You give them a kettlebell, a steel club, and you have them do the same thing with one arm instead of two, but now it's weighted. And that's why I like how you always go back to well, drop the rope and just do it without, and now let's see what's actually going to happen. What can you actually feel? Are you just being guided by the rope, or do you have that like internal confidence to do it without?
For
Super.
sure.
It's been life changing. I appreciate you bringing that into my life for sure.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I mean, it was brought to me. I literally picked it up at the beginning of the pandemic.
Mhm.
I saw it online and bought one from Weck Method. And I can't talk about rope flow without shouting out David Weck, who is the creator of the Bosu ball based in San Diego. He was the one that popularized the rope and systematized the basic movements. And from there, it's really spread like wildfire as people have taken it, have taken the fundamentals of what was designed by David Weck and have ran with it to create freestyle flows and moves that I don't think he could have ever imagined. You know, jump rope freestylers and world champions from all over the world are picking up this rope and coming up with new releases and these new. It's like it's evolved so much from in the last 2.5 years that I've been using it. You know, like so. Yeah, man, it's something that is even new for me, which is incredible because it's been such a huge part of my own practice and how I show things to other people as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found a couple weeks ago one of the videos. It was like 2 weeks into me learning how to do the sneak, and I remember I was like, "Wow, that was literally only like a year ago." It's crazy
Yeah,
how fast um, you're able to pick something like that up. And that's why I think it's such a valuable tool as well, from the standpoint of it. You literally, it'd be so hard to get hurt using that thing, but every ounce of learning with that rope will improve every other exercise you ever do that's loaded.
100%. Because the benefits that it has from a neurological sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sneak is a beautiful example of that because the underhand sneak was a move that it took me when I first learned this. There was no one around me that knew how to do this stuff. I was learning from YouTube videos. So David Weck has a YouTube video on the dragon roll,
Yeah.
on the overhand underhand sneak, and the matador wheel and race and chase. So whenever I give someone a rope, I send them that video series because that's literally what I learned on. Yeah. And the underhand sneak took me, no lie, probably close to a month to get. It was so troublesome for my body to get into this position with one hand behind me and this hand here, and then fluidly getting into that position on the other side. My one side, because I'm right-handed, my left side brain dominant, got it down almost immediately. But then the other side of my brain and the other side of my body was like, what is going on? And then once my body adapted it and this new pathway was open in my brain and things were flowing and connecting, my fluidity of movement for everything else increased. And it was truly like the proof was in the pudding. I don't know how else to say it, but
As
it really
cliche
just
as it sounds.
leveled everything else, you know. It leveled everything up for me. So the benefit of what you're doing with your brain and just the flow is a word that I overuse, but the flow of how you breathe, how you move, how you feel, and your awareness of all those three, it leveled up. So yeah, man.
Yeah. By the way, for anybody who's listening, Flow with AJ at Flow with AJ. Just go follow him right now before we. Yeah, dude. The capacity for your body to be kinesthetically aware with weights in your hands after it's kinesthetically aware with ropes in your hands is just monumental. It's huge. The increase in kinesthetic awareness is so evident and so immediate. Um, and once again, then it gives you the ability to take those concepts and apply it to those ancient and old concepts like a mace and a kettlebell and a steel club. And that's where you can then, pretty much elevate someone with those accessories very quickly, because you say, okay, I'm not going to injure you. I'm going to give you the rope. You learn the movement. Now I'm going to give you the load, and we'll increase the load. You've learned it. You've mastered it. Cool. Let's move to the next one. And there's a never ending progression. And then you start to throw in
Yeah.
the concepts of freestyle. So now there's never any limit to whatever they're learning. It's infinite, the amount of combinations that you can do with the moves. And that's ultimately where someone is physically free, right? They're physically
Yeah.
in control of their own body, their own energy, and that will, like Georgie apparently says all the time, that will transform and work into every other part of your life. So
Yeah, I look at movement. Another thing I say all the time, and it's like a broken record, is movement as a language. So the
mm,
way I see myself is like a language teacher, and I see all of these tools like different dialects, but ultimately you're teaching someone how to communicate, period, just with the way they move, and how all of these things interact and become one. It becomes it's you are the accumulation of all of these languages that you're learning how to become fluent in.
mhm.
And that analogy works so well because if, let's say, it's someone that you're working with for the first time, they've never used a rope before, it's going to be like you're talking to them in a language that they have no idea what that is, and they're going like looking at you like, huh, and then but then all of a sudden you start to become more intuitive with the lessons that you're experiencing over and over. So repetition is key, and being able to resonate with the things that you're taking in, because obviously if it doesn't resonate with you, you're probably not going to work on it or repeat it. So looking for that thing that works for you and your body, and then just doing it until you got it down, and then finding the next thing that vibrates with your energy just as much as that last thing did.
So true, so true. um so taking that concept and looking at language as a movement, I want you to explain real quick what elevate is and what ELVT stands for, because I
For
think
sure.
I find a lot of value in that.
Yeah. So, like I said, after a few years of education, Georgie and I have been together as partners for 5 years now. So, she was a huge part of helping me create this brand. And along with our partners, Joelle Gayona and Jade, they're part owners of Restore Cryotherapy. And they also helped us with this whole Elevate thing. But Elevate is ELVT, it's actually an acronym. It's 4 phases, and how we look at learning and replicating movement. So I come from a science background, and it's the scientific experiment approach to movement. So the first phase is explore, and in that phase you're figuring out what exactly it is you're doing, where you are, and you're able to look at that like a map. So in your explore phase, imagine you're taking something in for the very first time, and you're trying to find your edge of comfort at what you're doing. Explore is where you're able to see what's possible, what you're able to do, and the introduction to that.
Mhm.
The second phase of Elevate is load, your load phase. So now you've taken your exploration, you see what's possible or what you think is possible. And then, like you said before, you find ways to add on challenge. So that could be by adding on weight, that could be by doing a specific thing faster, or taking away stability. Those are like the major ways to make things more challenging. And then that's a lesson in itself, because you see where you need to work on, what you need to refine, and how you can push yourself further. The third phase of Elevate is V, which stands for Vanquish. So now this is the phase of your workout or your Elevate session where you've explored, you've loaded, which is the repetition of your explore, but with more and more challenge to really see where you're at. And your Vanquish is like your final expression of what you've learned throughout this session. T phase is the processing, the tune phase of Elevate. And it's the equivalent, it's like a computer that has taken in a new file and it needs to buff it, download it, and integrate it to the rest of the system. Tune phase is what is your time to do that with your body and your mind. So you've explored something, it could be brand new or something you've done for a while. You've loaded it, you've made it harder, more challenging. You've tested yourself to see how proficient you are at doing this thing, even with added challenge. You hit your vanquish phase, which is your final expression of this thing, pushing yourself, cranking it up to 11, giving it all you got. And then the tune phase is where your brain is able to download, to process, to take in all of the lessons, and then to elevate yourself in the way you breathe, move, and think. So you're leveled up for that next session.
Mhm.
So elevate is a way for us to get good at getting good. You know, it's either you want to learn a new language, may it be a movement language of any sort, or it's elevate is really something that I can apply to, let's say, this conversation. You know, in the beginning of our podcast, we're
Mhm.
both exploring each other. We're learning about each other. I learned so much about you and your origins with nursing school. You learned about my name and medical school and all that. And then we were able to get deeper and deeper, which was loading on, adding on to what you learned from that first phase.
Mhm.
And maybe this is the vanquish phase right here, where I'm spewing out all of this, you know, the accumulation of everything we've come up to. And then the tune phase is where you're really able to process that data.
No, I think you hit that right on the head, bro. I mean, I remember the first Elevate event going to um, up to West Palm and having everyone on the rooftop there was so sick. The sunset, I mean, it was super
Yeah.
cool. Vendors, meeting everybody there, just connecting with people, and everyone was kind of like looking around, like, "Do you know what we're about to do? Like,
Yeah.
what are we here for? Like, what's the
Yeah.
main event?" We're just kind of hanging out, and then you just took over the mic, you started talking, and you gave that right there, the Elevate speech. What does ELVT stand for? What is the acronym? And it started to make a little bit of sense, and everyone was like, okay, so we are going to move, we're going to move together, okay, cool, we're going to do this together. And then we split up and everyone just started doing their own thing, and all of a sudden you could feel the passion and the energy that was just, it was a bubble of fitness and movement aura, like over the top of that roof.
You're making
And
my cheeks hurt, dude. I'm like
yeah.
smiling so hard. Yeah.
And the vanquish part was the coolest because everyone there, although they were a fitness professional for the most part, or a yogi, or some sort of like elite athlete, we all had our different way of like expressing what we were best at. So you saw so many different cool things. Like one person was holding this amazing yoga pose, another person was doing this sick ground-based movement pattern. And then like you could just see so many different things. And then we all tuned in and meditated together and brought our breath to one and calmed down. And then all of a sudden it was like, all right, now I want you to go meet somebody new. And all of a sudden the conversations that started happening they were so much more advanced than the conversations that were happening prior to doing that.
For sure.
Um, so it really can just be about tuning into who you are, what your expectations are, how you can break those expectations down and go beyond those, and then take that into anything you do, like doing it before this podcast, right? Or doing it before you go teach a class,
Yeah.
or doing it before you go do another event and stand in front of people and talk. So
For sure. I see Elevate. When we first started this, it was, we actually had a different name for our brand and our training. And Georgie and I were working under the company called Opwell, which was Optimize Wellness. And I was starting to create a system for how to teach people what I learned from all these various different systems. And then we met Joelle and Jade, who were these amazing people in our community. Joelle actually helped Orange Theory go from like 15 stores to, you know, worldwide phenomenon. So he was a Yeah, so he's an incredible part of the fitness industry as well. And when I met him, he shared with me his vision of what he saw for a facility that he was trying to open called Elevate. And when we sat down and started talking, I felt so much resonance with him that it felt like, oh, okay, you're talking about the hardware, you're talking about the box, the facility, but you don't know what to put in it. And for me, I'm like the software guy. I can actually put the system inside for this four walls that you're trying to build. So from there, we decided it made sense to go underneath one umbrella, yeah, and collaborate. And that's where Elevate was born. And creating the phases of explore, load, vanquish, tune was really just the simplest way to take all of the lessons that how I learned these lessons and all of these lessons and how to simplify the process. Just like in science, you know, it's the scientific method. You have a hypothesis, you test that hypothesis through experimentation, and then from there you go to the summary. What could have went better? Why didn't it go as you expected? And then how can you improve for that next one? So it was that approach of experimentation applied to movement and training. So as that progressed and developed, what I found, like what you just touched on, is that Elevate isn't really about a workout, or it's not about the tool that you're using. It's been my approach to everything I do. This conversation is Elevate. I was able to elevate the way I communicate with myself first, because I think that's what matters most. You know, being able to communicate with yourself improves your ability to communicate with others. So not only did Elevate become the way I learn a new tool, but it's really become the way I approach everything. And it's given me a more humble approach, the able to be the student at everything I do. And another huge piece of the puzzle or mantra that I say to a lot of my clientele is awareness without judgment. And with the Elevate process, I've really been able to pick up on things and be aware of them without any judgment and being like, oh, I don't like this or I love this. You know, it's just putting energy in the wrong place, but just becoming aware of things and then realizing, does this suit me? Does this improve me? Do I want this pattern to continue in my life? Do I make it better or do I get rid of it? You know, so just that approach has really been able to evolve and elevate the way I breathe, move, and feel. So yeah, man, it's really cool.
Bro, it's so crazy how many like explosions inside my head just happened. Like that vision of like electricity running through somebody's brain, right? Like that's
Yeah.
Hearing you talk, it's the way that you approach life is very much the way I think about, you know, limitless theory. It's the concept of like how everything I do has a ripple effect, that infinite effect, and whatever I feel, whatever I think, whatever I expose myself to through my five senses, whatever I put out into the world, all of it has this infinite impact. And it starts with my heartbeat. It starts with me. And it's going to be full of ups and downs, but I'd rather have it be that way than be flatlined. But as you're going through it, be in control, know where you are on that wave, and understand that it's supposed to be like that. Otherwise, it's boring.
For sure.
So don't be so reactive. Um, be uh, be a witness to it, right? And be someone that, you know, is in the moment, understanding, evolving with each and every ripple. You are creating your future and the future around you and the future of the people that will come behind you. And it's just really how everything in my life is approached. Like, how efficient can that be? How in control of that can I be? And the things that I can't control, I let go. You don't have to be
And
attached
that
to
goes
it.
back to my thought of you know, it's the eye of the beholder. I believe that you and I are teaching the same things. but
Yeah.
in a way that the language just is suitable for me and suitable for you. But that just proves even more so what we've been talking about is this elevated, this limitless, this constant goal to just improve yourself and the others around you and your environment. And it's really amazing. And again, it just makes me so happy that I've met someone like you, and I've met the people in our community that we're constantly bringing together here in South Florida. And we're just getting started.
Dude, just getting started. I can't wait. All right, give me real quick. We're gonna like shoot fire some quick questions. Did you finish college?
Yes, I graduated FAU in 2011. Funny thing, I was supposed to graduate in 2010, and then I go to my guidance counselor, and he's like, "Hey, did you know that you only need like 5 credits to graduate with like a psychology degree as well?" And I was like, "Oh shit," like
That's cool.
I didn't realize that half of the electives that I were taking were things that I were interested in, were all psychology based. And I decided to stay an extra year so I can graduate with both a biology and psychology degree. And then I actually took the MCAT. So I didn't really decide not to go to medical school until like I started getting acceptance and denial letters from medical schools across the country. So I was on that path for a very long time until at the last second I decided, you know what, like this is probably the point where if I don't choose to make a decision for myself, I won't have this opportunity again.
Mm.
So it took me a while to really commit to the journey of health profession in a more unconventional kind of way. So yeah.
Wow. All right, cool. I'm glad I asked that.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. I probably should have said that earlier.
we were exploring,
Yeah,
we
for sure, for sure.
we added load to one part of the conversation,
Yeah,
forgot about the other.
totally.
What is your favorite tool by far from a movement standpoint?
Right, it changes all the time. Yeah, it honestly changes all the time because it's what it really is what's like calling to me more than anything at that time, because rope is so new in my personal journey and I've been doing it for about 2.5 years compared to the other things that I've been doing for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I still feel like I have so many lessons to learn and also teach people with it. It's the thing I gravitate towards so much. But then surf skating is something I picked up a couple months ago, as well as rock climbing is something that it's been in my mind a lot lately. And just the parkour style of just looking at an environment and thinking, how can I play with this environment and like control it and surf it and become the master of whatever environment I'm in. So
Adapts to it. That's cool.
yeah, so I would say the things that I gravitate towards most now are the things that I'm most a beginner in, because there's so many lessons to learn. And I know that those lessons transfer over to the things that I'm already more proficient at, which is something that you stated earlier is like, the better I get at rope, the better I get at steel mace and kettlebell and these other tools. Even though I've been doing those tools for so long, the lessons that I get in these newer things apply to everything else in my past. So yeah.
Cool. What is one personal goal you have for 2022?
Good question. 2022 is the year that I want to continually grow the community of Elevate, to spread the message and to really get these workshops and these events where we're able to bring people together more prevalent. Now that I'd say the world is getting used to where we're at, and outdoor events are becoming more and more the event that you came to on the rooftop in West Palm, I don't know, it was 3 days after the first lockdown in 2019. And
Yeah.
like we were literally talking to the gym the day before, like, are we sure this is going to happen? And like nobody knew. There was so much unknown
Uh-huh.
that we weren't sure if that was going to happen. And then we ended up getting over 50 people on the rooftop together, teaching everybody what Elevate was. And it was a euphoric moment that was life changing. And then lockdowns happened and social distancing happened. And all these things that were so opposite of what our goals were. So really trying to bring people together in a safe, intelligent way that elevates not only what I'm doing, but what everybody out there is doing as well. And to continually spread that message is really my number one thing right now, is and finding different pathways to do that every day.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to, obviously we're going to continue to talk and chat, but you obviously know I want to be a part of as much of that as possible. So,
Oh, dude, you are a part of it.
okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Like,
you are Elevate, bro. You're part of the team, and I'm Limitless, bro. Like we said, this is we're both two of the same. We're there, man. We're
one
team.
and the same, one and the same. All right.
100%.
Um, th- I still can't think of that other question I had for you. All right, I'll throw this one at you. Favorite food, just outright. Any specific food?
I'm a bit of a carnivore.
Okay.
I love meat. There's something about the way I feel when I've fueled my body with proper protein that it makes me feel like a predator, it makes me feel like I'm ready to take on the day. And there's just something about that. Being from Latin roots, I grew up on steak, rice, and beans, and I love carbohydrates too. But as I've gotten healthier and healthier, I've every day is I'm trying to tap into what makes me feel the best and what I could do better with. I did want to add one thing to when you were asking me about tools,
Okay.
because it's something that popped in my head. I have something that I teach that I've adopted and I teach a lot of my clientele is hobby swapping. So it doesn't really matter what you're doing, but picking up something new
Mm,
that resonates with you is really good for your mind and body. It could be something like skateboarding that isn't, typically not looked at like a fitness tool or anything like that, but picking up this new thing just charges your brain energetically, your mind, and it allows you to take something new. And then let's say you get to a point where, oh, okay, I've been doing this thing, steel mace or kettlebells for a while, then put it down, pick up something new, and then go back to this hobby swap is just to try to keep in that childish state. Like we talked about with the rope, you put the rope in someone's hands and all of a sudden they smile and they look like a 8-year-old. They're like, this is awesome, and then
yeah.
you just want to feel that as much as you possibly can. And I think a really good way to do that is just trying something new as often as possible, or as you need. If the fire isn't burning so hot and
Mhm.
whatever it is you're doing, take a little breath and try something new.
That's a great idea, dude. I love that concept. And I'm someone who was, labeled ADHD from, 7 years old. But for me, it was like I played every sport. I was constantly outside. It was basketball, it was rollerblading, it was skateboarding, it was razor scooters, um, uh, the pogo sticks, like literally wiffle ball, anything I could get my hands on, I was doing. So then when it came to like shut up and sit down and pay attention for 6 hours, I was the worst. Like you couldn't get me to do
Yeah.
that. So it was
Yeah.
immediately, oh, ADHD. And for me now, I just noticed that like I need my hours of the day dispersed into like certain segments in different environments. And for me, that optimizes how I operate. I know that like I'm going to spend 3-4 hours here and get what I need to done there. Same thing here. Boom. And I mean, at that rate, I'll just keep going. Like you give me something to do from 9 p.m. to 12 p.m. As long as like it's a new and stimulating place, I'm good. I'll go. I'll do it. As long as I think it's benefiting me or the people that I'm there with. Uh,
100%.
so that same concept, like hobby swapping of like if you get bored with something, pick up something new and try it
Yeah,
and do
for sure.
and don't get don't get caught up on it and the lack of judgment. Cool concept. I like that. All right. I say we wrap it up, man. Where can everybody follow you and the brand? Throw all that info out. Make sure we get you some.
Yeah, for sure. So I would love for everyone to follow me on Instagram at Flow with AJ, all 3 words, 2 W's. For people in South Florida that want to link up and do a movement session in person, Georgie and I are both located in Boca Raton and Delray. We're doing events all over South Florida, and we do have that international event in the Dominican Republic in May. And yeah, I would say those are the places you can find me, and I would love to meet everybody and help elevate yourself in any way I can possibly do it.
Love that. By the way, I've been going to Evolution. I bought a couple more classes of a class pack. I was there yesterday morning. Took a nice class there. Obviously with my ankle, it's like I'm like I'm literally for every down dog I'm doing a child's pose, and like trying to work around it. But being in the hot room and getting a good sweat on has been really cool. Me and my girlfriend Amy been going. So and I definitely want to get her to one of your classes and one of Georgie's classes. I've been telling her, like, we got to go. We're going to figure that out and get over there. I highly recommend South Florida. Go take one of their classes. Yeah, super, super cool. I really enjoyed both of them because I've only been to both. I think I went to yours twice, actually. I've only been to hers once, but both of them super, super enjoyable. Took so many things away from both of them. So I want to continue to support and go and be there when I can, learn a little bit, get my sweat on.
Yeah, dude.
Aside from that, man, thank you for your time today. This is everything I thought it would be. Super cool.
Dude, let's do this more often, man. I think we were both made to just chat. So if people are willing to hear this, there's a lot more where this came from.
For sure. We have a bunch of different topics we could dive into. That's one of the things I tell people all the time. This is one of those hobbies for me that, like, I don't care if I make $0. If I talk to good people for a long time and have good conversation and learn about them, it sparks me like nothing else. Like, just gets me.
I have to say that podcasts are probably one of the greatest inventions in my lifetime. The podcast, Joe Rogan's podcast, like I already stated before, was something that I came onto lucky enough just from watching mixed martial arts and finding out about Joe there. And he mentioned it and I started listening, and being able to, if you're in a part of the world where you're not surrounded by like-minded people, or not even like-minded people, because it's not like-minded before you're exposed to this stuff. So if you're not surrounded by people who are really at the tip of the spear and whatever it is that's resonating with you, being able to hear conversations like this is life-changing, So I could only hope that someone gets out of this conversation what I've gotten out of hours and hours of podcasts that I've listened to. It's definitely one of the best avenues to improve my mind and the way I look at life. So I think what you're doing is incredible, man. I'm really inspired by it. And, this is actually the first podcast I've been on, but hopefully I'll do a lot more of this. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, you have a bright future ahead of being a guest on this show. Like, this is right in your wheelhouse. Super honored that you this was your inaugural one, man.
Yeah, man.
I would have never guessed that. I don't think anyone who was listening up until now would have guessed it. So
yeah.
Much love, dude. I appreciate it. With everyone out there listening, go follow AJ. I'm sure he will be able to answer any questions. He would love to hear from you, chat with you. So go chat him up, follow him, follow Georgie, his girlfriend, follow Elevate, their amazing brand. And
let's do this. If anybody does follow me off this podcast, you let me know, send a DM or comment on one of our last posts. We'll do something special for you guys, because all we can do is share that limitless love. So yeah, maybe comment limitless on one of my posts or DM me. Let me know that you came from here, and we'll do something special for you.
Cool. And I'll get the clips out and the pictures for this, thumbnails. We'll get it all out there. So
definitely.
It too. Hey, for everyone listening, thank you. You know the deal. Reach out to us, like, subscribe, do all the good things. Love will always come back around full circle. We are, life is limitless. Peace out.
Bam.